Stay inside me, she moaned, nowhere else I'd be. He growled. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Meet Emma, a woman struggling to make ends meet, when she unexpectedly finds herself sitting at the wrong table, facing a man who will change her life forever. It all began on a quiet evening at an upscale New York City restaurant, the kind where every dish is an art piece and every guest seems to have it all. Emma Brooks, however, didn't belong there. She was self-conscious about her second-hand dress and scuffed shoes, the reflection in the window a constant reminder of her reality. But she had promised Jenny, her best friend, she would follow through with the blind date. So, she took a deep breath, adjusted her dress, and entered. Her eye scanned the tables, the hum of conversation and clinking silverware filling the air. She muttered under her breath, "Table 7, her heart pounded in her chest as she walked past the bustling tables, until her eyes landed on a man sitting alone. He was dressed impeccably, his dark hair neatly styled, and he seemed engrossed in his phone. This had to be him. Taking another breath to calm her nerves, she approached him with a forced smile. "Hi, you must be Kevin." "I'm Emma, nice to meet you." The man looked up, startled, blinking at her. He seemed confused for a moment, clearly taken aback. Hi Emma," he said, his voice soft and unsure. She misinterpreted his hesitation as shyness and quickly slid into the seat across from him, fumbling with her napkin. "Oh, I know, blind dates are weird, right?" she said with a nervous laugh. "Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." Liam Parker opened his mouth to correct her but paused. His business associate had just texted to cancel their meeting, and something about Emma's genuine smile made him hesitate. She was unlike the polished socialites and calculated networkers he usually dealt with. Emma didn't try to impress him. She was just herself. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. "Right," he said, finally relaxing. "Blind dates are something else." Emma laughed nervously, taking a sip of water. "Tell me about it." "Jenny's been trying to set me up for months, but I've been too busy with work, you know." Liam leaned back in his chair, intrigued. "Work?" he asked, though he didn't expect the answer to be so down-to-earth. "I'm a waitress," Emma replied, fiddling with the edge of her napkin. "Not glamorous, but it pays the bills." "Well, most of them." She gave a small, self-deprecating smile. "What about you? What do you do?" "Tech," Liam replied, his tone vague, but not dismissive. Emma's eyes lit up. "Tech? That's cool. Like coding and apps and stuff?" she asked, her voice enthusiastic. Liam smiled at her eagerness. "Something like that," he said, leaning back. The conversation flowed easily after that, despite the awkward start. Emma shared stories about her life, the struggle she faced, and her dream of one day opening her own art studio. Liam found himself laughing more than he had in months. She was refreshing. He wasn't used to people being so open, so genuine. "You're not what I expected," Emma said thoughtfully. "Jenny said you were reserved. But you're easy to talk to." Liam chuckled. "You're easy to talk to, too." Emma beamed at the compliment, feeling her nerves finally easing. Just as she was about to ask him more about his tech work, her phone buzzed. She frowned at the message. "Hey Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7. "Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Her heart sank. She looked up at Liam, her face turning bright red with embarrassment. "Oh my God," she muttered, standing up abruptly. "I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table. This is so embarrassing." Before he could say anything, Emma grabbed her coat and bolted for the door, leaving Liam sitting at the table, a strange mix of regret and curiosity swirling inside him. He had meant to correct her the moment she approached, but now, as she disappeared out the door, he found himself wondering if he'd ever see her again. And why did the thought of never seeing her again bother him so much? The next morning, Emma woke up with a heavy feeling in her chest. She couldn't stop thinking about the night before, about the man she had mistaken for Kevin, the way she had run out of the restaurant in embarrassment. She should have just stayed, should have just apologized properly, but she couldn't bring herself to. Her heart raced as she replayed the scene in her head. What would he think of her now? She had made a fool of herself. She sighed deeply as she got out of bed, the morning light filtering through the small window of her apartment. The room was modest, with chipped walls and an old couch in the corner that looked like it had seen better days. She rubbed her eyes, still feeling the sting of regret. She had promised Jenny she would go through with the date, but she hadn't expected to meet someone like Liam. The whole situation felt like something out of a movie. Yet, here she was, back to her ordinary life, waiting tables and scraping by. She quickly got dressed and headed out the door, trying to shake off the feeling that last night had been a missed opportunity. Her shift at the diner was starting in an hour, and she had to focus. She grabbed her phone to check for any messages and froze when she saw a text from an unknown number. "Hi, Emma. This is Liam. I was the guy you sat with last night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd like to see you again. Coffee maybe." Her heart skipped a beat. Liam. The man from last night. He wanted to see her again? Emma stared at the message, disbelief and excitement coursing through her. She didn't know what to think. After everything, he still wanted to meet her? She quickly typed a response, her fingers trembling. "Hi, Liam. Wow, I didn't expect to hear from you. I'd love to meet for coffee. When and where?" She hit send before she could second-guess herself. A few minutes later, he replied, "How about the coffee shop on 5th? I'll be there at 3. She couldn't help but smile. There was something about his message that made her feel at ease, like maybe he wasn't judging her for running away. Maybe he really was interested. She quickly finished getting ready, her nerves slowly turning into anticipation. As she walked to the coffee shop, she couldn't help but wonder what kind of person Liam really was. The man she had met at the restaurant seemed so different from the type of people she usually interacted with. He was confident, polished, yet there was something genuine about him that had caught her off guard. She arrived at the coffee shop a little early, the warmth of the place wrapping around her as she stepped inside. She spotted him right away, sitting at a corner table, looking relaxed in a grey sweater and jeans, a stark contrast to the business attire he had worn the night before. She approached him, feeling her nerves return, but this time, it felt different. "Hi," she said, her voice a little shaky. "I hope I'm not too early." He looked up and smiled, that same warm smile that had put her at ease the night before. "Not at all," he replied, standing up to greet her. "It's good to see you again, Emma." She slid into the chair across from him, still trying to process how surreal this all felt. "I'm glad you texted," she said, trying to keep the conversation light. "I didn't expect to hear from you after last night." "I wanted to," he said simply, his tone genuine. "I thought you were different from anyone I've met in a long time. You were so real." Emma felt her heart flutter at his words. "I'm glad you think that," she said, smiling shyly. They ordered their drinks and settled into an easy conversation. Emma told him about her job at the diner, her struggles with paying rent, and her dream of one day opening her own art studio. She found herself opening up to him in a way she hadn't with anyone else. He listened intently, his gaze soft but focused on her. Liam shared bits about his work in tech, but he never went into too much detail. He seemed content just listening to her, and Emma found that comforting. As the conversation continued, Emma began to feel a connection forming between them. It was subtle, but it was there, something that felt different from anything she had experienced before. She had expected him to be just like the other guys she had dated, polished, distant, focused only on himself, but he wasn't. He was kind, interested, and he made her feel like she mattered. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. After they finished their coffee, Liam stood up and smiled at her. "I really enjoyed this, Emma. How about dinner tomorrow?" he asked. She hesitated for a moment, but then, without thinking, she nodded. "I'd like that," she said, her voice quieter than usual. As she walked home later that evening, her mind was spinning. Could this be the start of something real? She didn't know, but she couldn't deny the pull she felt towards him. Maybe this was the beginning of something more than just a simple mistake. Maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of a love story. The next evening, Emma stood in front of her bathroom mirror, nervously adjusting her dress. She had picked something simple but elegant, just enough to make her feel confident without overdoing it. Her hands were trembling as she applied a bit of makeup, her thoughts racing. Was she really ready for this? She had barely known Liam for a day, but everything about him felt different. The way he listened to her, the way he made her feel like she was the only person in the room, it was something she had never experienced before. She took a deep breath, smoothing down the wrinkles in her dress, and walked out the door. The air was cooler than usual as she made her way to the restaurant, a cozy Italian place Liam had chosen for their dinner. It was one of those hidden gems that was never too crowded, where the lights were warm and the atmosphere felt intimate. She arrived a little early, but Liam was already there, sitting at a table for two, his eyes scanning the menu. He looked up when she approached, a smile lighting up his face. "You look beautiful," he said, his voice soft but genuine. Emma's cheeks flushed at the compliment. "Thank you," she replied, trying to keep her nerves in check. She sat down across from him, and they both greeted each other with small talk as they looked over the menu. As the evening went on, the conversation flowed effortlessly. They talked about everything: life, work, their dreams. Emma found herself opening up in a way she hadn't with anyone in a long time. She told him about her mother's health struggles, how she had to juggle work and family, and how she dreamed of creating a space for artists to thrive. Liam, in return, shared more about his childhood, how he grew up in a small town, and how his passion for technology had driven him to become the CEO of a successful tech company. But despite his success, Emma could tell there was something more to him. He didn't carry himself like the typical CEO she had imagined. He was down-to-earth, genuine, and easy to talk to. The connection between them felt natural, as if they had known each other for much longer than just a few days. As the meal came to an end, Liam leaned back in his chair, his gaze thoughtful. "I'm really glad we did this, Emma," he said, his tone serious. "I know we met under unusual circumstances, but I feel like there's something here. Something real." Emma felt her heart skip a beat. Could he be feeling the same thing she was? She had spent so much of her life just getting by, never really allowing herself to believe in love or anything deeper than survival. But Liam, he made her believe that maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than just getting by. "I feel it too," she replied softly. "I don't know what this is, but I can't ignore it." There was a brief pause, and then Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I'm not asking you to jump into anything, but I think we should see where this goes. Let's take it slow, see what happens. I just don't want to miss the chance to explore this." Emma squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think that's a good idea." After dinner, they took a walk through the park nearby, the evening air crisp against their skin. As they strolled side by side, Emma couldn't help but feel like she was walking into something that could change her life forever. She wasn't sure where this would go, but for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. The next few weeks passed in a blur of coffee dates, walks in the park, and late-night conversations. They grew closer with each passing day, their connection deepening as they shared their hopes, fears, and dreams. Emma found herself falling for him in a way she hadn't expected, and she could see that Liam was equally invested. But just as things seemed to be falling into place, doubts crept in. Emma started to wonder if she was just another woman in a long line of women who had captured his attention, only to fade away as he moved on to the next. She started questioning her worth, wondering if someone like Liam could really see her for who she was, or if he was just fascinated by the idea of her. Her fears came to a head one evening when she overheard a conversation between Liam and his business partner, where they discussed a potential merger and how it could benefit his company. It made Emma feel like she was just a small part of his world, a fleeting moment of interest in the midst of his larger, more important life. That night, she lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, the doubt swirling in her mind. Was this all just a fantasy? Or was Liam really the person she had come to believe he was? The next day, she met Liam for lunch, her heart heavy with uncertainty. She needed answers. She needed to know if this was real or if she was just another passing interest to him. As she sat across from him, she looked into his eyes, searching for the truth. "Liam, are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "About us?" As Emma sat across from Liam at the small cafe, she could feel the weight of the question hanging in the air. The words were out before she could stop them, and now she waited for his response, her heart pounding in her chest. "Are you sure about this?" "About us," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper, afraid of what the answer might be. Liam looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. He didn't say anything at first, just studied her with an intensity that made Emma feel exposed, as though he could see every doubt, every insecurity she was holding onto. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he spoke. "Emma, you don't have to question this," he said softly, his voice calm but firm. "I'm not playing games with you. I've never been more certain about anything in my life." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her, but the doubt still lingered. She had asked the question because, deep down, she was scared of being hurt, scared of being just another person in his life. "But why me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Why now? I mean, you could have anyone. You're a successful CEO, you've got everything. Why would you want someone like me?" Liam leaned forward, his eyes locking with hers. "Because you're real," he said, his voice low but steady. "Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I'm just a CEO. I don't feel like I'm just a business deal. I feel like I'm Liam, the person. And that's something I've been looking for a long time." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had never heard anyone speak to her like that before, especially not someone as powerful and successful as Liam. It was as if he saw her, truly saw her, for who she was, not just the waitress or the struggling artist. He saw her as a person. "I know I haven't been perfect," Liam continued, his voice softening. "I've been guarded, and I've kept parts of myself closed off, but with you, it's different. I don't want to keep hiding who I am." Emma could feel her heart begin to soften, the walls she had built around herself starting to crumble. She had been so afraid of being hurt, of being let down, but Liam wasn't like the others. He wasn't just saying the right things, he was showing it through his actions. "I don't want to just be another chapter in your life, Liam," she whispered, almost to herself. "I want to be someone who matters." "You do matter, Emma," he said, his voice earnest. "You matter more than you know." The sincerity in his words took her by surprise. She had heard plenty of sweet talkers in her life, but Liam's words were different, his eyes held a depth that showed he truly meant it. It was as though he had already made up his mind, and now he was just waiting for her to take the leap with him. For a moment, Emma didn't know what to say. Her emotions were a tangled mess, hope, fear, excitement, uncertainty, all battling for control. But then she realized something. She had been afraid of opening her heart, of trusting again, but Liam was offering her something real. He was offering her a chance at something she hadn't thought possible. Love. Real love. The kind of love that wasn't built on promises or fairy tales, but on honesty and vulnerability. She took a deep breath, feeling her heart beat a little faster. "Okay," she said finally, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "I'll take that leap." Liam's face broke into a smile, and for a moment, Emma forgot everything else. All the doubts, the fears, everything faded away. All that mattered was the man sitting across from her, offering her a future she hadn't dared to dream of. As they left the cafe, Liam took her hand in his, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Emma didn't feel like she was alone. The streets of New York City seemed brighter, the world a little less heavy. She didn't know where this journey with Liam would take her, but she was ready to find out. Over the next few weeks, their relationship deepened. They spent more time together, going to art galleries, visiting new cafes, and having late-night talks. Every moment with Liam felt like a revelation, and Emma could feel herself falling harder for him with each passing day. But as things were getting better, the weight of their worlds, their different backgrounds, their different lives, began to surface. Emma felt the tension building again, the uncertainty creeping in. What if this was just a fling for him? What if, in the end, he couldn't truly love someone like her? She couldn't let herself believe it, not yet. Not when everything felt so real. She couldn't lose him now, not after everything they had shared. The next week, Liam invited her to a charity gala he was hosting. It was a grand event, with well-dressed guests, expensive wine, and speeches about giving back to the community. Emma felt out of place, her simple dress and modest appearance standing in stark contrast to the opulence around her. But Liam was by her side the entire evening, holding her hand, making her feel like she belonged. As the night wore on, Emma began to relax. She watched Liam interact with people, his colleagues, business partners, friends. He was charismatic, confident, and seemed to be the center of attention wherever he went. But through it all, he kept returning to her, making her feel like she was the most important person in the room. She was starting to realize that this, what they had, wasn't just a fleeting moment. It was something real, something worth fighting for. But just as she began to feel completely at ease, a familiar face appeared in the crowd. A face she hadn't seen in years. Jenny. Her best friend. Emma froze, a wave of anxiety sweeping over her. What was Jenny doing here? How would she react to everything that had happened between her and Liam? As Emma stood frozen in the crowd, her eyes locked onto Jenny, her best friend, who was making her way through the guests with an unmistakable look of curiosity. Emma's stomach twisted with anxiety. She hadn't expected Jenny to be at the gala, and certainly not like this. She could feel the tension building in her chest as Jenny's gaze scanned the room, and then landed directly on her. Jenny's smile faltered for a split second, but then she walked toward Emma, her heels clicking confidently against the marble floor. Emma. Jenny's voice was warm, but there was an underlying note of surprise. What are you doing here? Emma took a deep breath and stepped forward, forcing a smile. I'm here with Liam, she said, her voice a little shaky. Jenny raised an eyebrow. Liam? As in, the Liam, she asked, her tone a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. Emma nodded, trying to keep her composure. Yeah, the Liam, she repeated. Jenny's eyes widened as she glanced over at Liam, who was talking to a group of guests nearby, his tall frame and confident posture impossible to miss. Emma could feel the heat rising in her cheeks. She wasn't sure how to explain it, how to explain everything that had happened between her and Liam in the last few weeks. It felt like too much to put into words. I didn't know you were with him, Jenny said slowly, her gaze flicking back to Emma. I mean, this is kind of a big deal. Yeah, Emma replied, her voice quiet. It's kind of a big deal for me too. There was an awkward pause between them. Jenny didn't seem to know what to say next, and Emma wasn't sure how to navigate this conversation. She had always kept things from Jenny, kept things from everyone. But now, with Liam, everything felt different. She didn't want to hide anymore, but she also wasn't sure how much she was ready to reveal. I'm happy for you, Jenny said finally, though her voice held a trace of uncertainty. But, you know, this kind of thing doesn't always work out. I just want you to be careful. Emma looked at Jenny, surprised by her words. What do you mean? She asked, frowning slightly. I mean, you're a waitress, Emma. He's a billionaire CEO. It's not exactly the easiest match. I don't want you to get hurt. Emma felt a pang of discomfort at Jenny's words. She knew Jenny was just looking out for her, but hearing it aloud made her own insecurities rise to the surface. Was Jenny right? Was this all just a fantasy? Was she just some passing distraction to Liam? Before she could respond, Liam appeared beside them, a friendly smile on his face. "Hey, Emma," he said warmly, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Is this your friend?" Jenny's eyes widened at the sight of him, and she quickly plastered a smile on her face. "Yes, I'm Jenny," she said, shaking his hand. "I didn't realize Emma knew such important people." Liam chuckled lightly. "I wouldn't say important," he replied. "Just a regular guy, trying to make a difference." He gave Emma a reassuring look, and Emma felt a little bit of the tension drain from her shoulders. "I'm glad to finally meet you, Jenny," Liam continued. "Emma's told me a lot about you." Jenny gave Emma a questioning look, but Emma simply smiled, trying to ignore the discomfort brewing inside her. "All good things, I hope," she said, her voice light. "Of course," Liam said, his smile softening as he looked at Emma. "I'm really happy you're here, Emma," he added, his voice quieter now. "I've been looking forward to this evening all week." Emma's heart fluttered at the sincerity in his voice, and for a moment, all the doubts that had been swirling around in her mind seemed to vanish. She realized she didn't want to let fear hold her back anymore. She had already taken the leap with Liam, and she wasn't about to pull away now. "I'm glad to be here too," she said softly, leaning into him. Jenny watched the exchange between them, her eyes flicking between Emma and Liam. Emma could see the wheels turning in Jenny's head, and she knew that her friend had more questions than she had answers for. But for now, Emma didn't care. She was with Liam, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The night continued with Liam by her side, and Emma began to feel the weight of her worries lift. The gala was everything she had imagined, elegant, sophisticated, and full of important people, but with Liam, it felt different. She didn't feel out of place. She didn't feel like the girl who didn't belong. As they danced later in the evening, the music soft and romantic, Emma let herself be swept away by the moment. She looked up at Liam, his eyes warm and sincere, and for a brief second, everything else faded away. It was just the two of them. But even as she lost herself in the dance, a small voice in the back of her mind reminded her that this moment wasn't just a dream. This was real. And the question that had been lingering in her mind for days came rushing back. Was she ready to take the next step? Was she ready to fully trust Liam with her heart? As the song ended and they stood together, the music fading into the background, Emma looked into his eyes and made her decision. She was ready. Ready to trust, ready to love. And whatever came next, she was going to face it head on. She had taken the leap before, and she would do it again. With him. The following week, things with Liam were different. Emma had let go of the doubts that had plagued her and fully embraced the connection they had started to build. She was spending more time with him, and though it still felt like a whirlwind, it also felt right. Every time they were together, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something truly special. Liam had continued to show her sides of himself that she never expected. He wasn't just the successful CEO she had initially thought he was. He was thoughtful, kind, and completely present when he was with her. He didn't seem interested in the power dynamics that had once defined his world. It was as if everything about him had shifted. It was the little things, like how he would hold her hand in public without hesitation, how he would cancel meetings just to spend time with her, and how he would always listen, truly listen, when she spoke. He had shown her more in just a few weeks than some people did in years. But as much as Emma felt herself falling deeper for Liam, she also felt the pressure mounting. They hadn't talked about what this was, what they were. She didn't want to assume anything, but she also didn't want to keep waiting for something to happen. She needed to know where they stood. So, as they sat together in a small cafe one afternoon, she decided it was time to ask the question that had been on her mind for days. "Liam," she started, her voice a little nervous, "I've been thinking a lot about us. And I just need to know, where do we go from here?" Liam looked up from his coffee, his eyes meeting hers with a soft intensity. For a moment, he didn't say anything. He just studied her, as if weighing his words carefully. Emma's heart began to race, the vulnerability she felt in asking that question settling heavily in her chest. She had to know, but she wasn't sure if she was ready for the answer. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Liam spoke. "I've been thinking about it too," he said, his voice calm and sure. "And I know that I want more than just a fling with you. I don't want this to be something temporary. I want to see where this goes, really go there with you." Emma felt a rush of relief wash over her. The knot that had been twisting in her stomach slowly unraveled. She smiled, a genuine smile, one that reached her eyes. "That's exactly what I want too," she said softly. Liam reached across the table and took her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Then we'll figure it out together," he said, his eyes warm. The simplicity of his words made her heart swell. In that moment, she realized that she had found something worth fighting for. The doubts that had once plagued her seemed insignificant now. She had a chance at something real, something that wasn't based on appearances or expectations, but on trust and connection. And that was enough for her. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Liam continued to grow closer. They spent their weekends exploring the city, going to art galleries, and sharing quiet evenings at home. Emma found herself in a place she never thought she would be, feeling truly happy, truly loved. But as their relationship deepened, Emma started to notice something she hadn't before, the pressure of Liam's world. He had a team to manage, deadlines to meet, and an empire to run. She knew he had responsibilities, but it still stung when he had to cancel plans or cut their time together short. Emma tried to be understanding, but sometimes it felt like she was competing for his attention against his business, and that made her question if she would ever truly be enough. One evening, after Liam had to leave early to attend an urgent meeting, Emma sat alone in her apartment, feeling the weight of her thoughts. She loved him, there was no doubt about that, but she also needed to feel like she was a priority, not just an afterthought. That night, as she lay in bed, she wondered if she was just fooling herself, trying to fit into a world that didn't truly belong to her. The next morning, she texted Liam to let him know she wanted to talk. They met for coffee later that afternoon, and as soon as she saw him, she knew she had to bring up what had been bothering her. "Liam," she started, her voice tentative, "I need to ask you something. It's been on my mind for a while." Liam looked up from his coffee, his expression concerned. "What is it?" he asked. "I feel like I'm always coming second to your work," she said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "And I understand that you have responsibilities, but sometimes it feels like I'm just not enough. Like I'm competing for your attention, and I'm losing." Liam's face softened immediately, and he reached across the table to take her hand. "Emma, you are more than enough. I'm sorry if I've made you feel like you're not. My work is important, but you are too. You matter to me, and I don't want to make you feel like I'm neglecting you." Emma looked into his eyes, searching for the truth in his words. She could see the sincerity there, and it calmed the storm inside her. "I just want to feel like I'm not an afterthought," she said quietly. "I want to be a priority too." "You are," Liam said firmly. "I'll do better. I'll make sure I'm giving you the attention you deserve." Emma felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had said what she needed to say, and Liam had listened. She could see that he cared about her, and that was enough to reassure her. As they sat there, holding hands, Emma realized that the path ahead wouldn't always be easy, but it was worth walking if it meant being with him. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotions for Emma and Liam. They had worked through the tension that had started to grow between them, and now their connection seemed stronger than ever. Emma felt more secure in their relationship, knowing that Liam was committed to making time for her, despite the demands of his work. They spent their days together, creating new memories, and Liam made a real effort to show Emma that she was a priority in his life. But even as things felt perfect, Emma couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in the back of her mind. Her own insecurities still lingered, even after everything they had talked about. She was falling deeply for Liam, but the question of her place in his world still haunted her. She wasn't from his high society circles, and while he made her feel like she belonged, there was always the fear that she was just a fleeting interest for him. One afternoon, as they walked through the city, hand in hand, Emma felt a sudden wave of doubt. She looked up at Liam, his face relaxed as he chatted about a new project he was working on, and for a brief moment, she wondered if he would truly be able to fit her into his world long term. She didn't want to be just another chapter in his life, another fleeting romance that would fade away once the excitement wore off. She had always feared being abandoned, and she couldn't shake that fear, even with him. Liam noticed the shift in her mood as they reached the park bench, and his smile faltered. "Emma, what's wrong?" he asked, gently pulling her to sit next to him. She hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to voice her concerns. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I just keep thinking, are you sure about us?" "About me?" "I mean, we're from different worlds, and I know you've got so much going on with work and everything, but I don't want to be just a distraction. I don't want to be someone you forget about when things get tough." Liam turned to her, his expression softening. "Emma, you're not a distraction to me," he said firmly. "I want you in my life, not just now, but for the long haul. I know we come from different places, but that doesn't change how I feel about you. You matter to me. More than anything." Emma's heart fluttered at his words, but the fear still lingered. She had been hurt before, and the scars of past relationships made it hard to believe in something as real and genuine as what she had with Liam. "But what if this doesn't work?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What if I'm just not enough?" Liam reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. "Emma, you are more than enough. You've always been enough. The only thing standing in the way is your own fear. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here, with you, every step of the way." His words, so simple yet so powerful, settled in her heart like a promise. She could feel the sincerity in his touch, the warmth of his reassurance, and for the first time in a long while, Emma allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of this kind of love. The next few days were a turning point for them. They had deep, honest conversations about their future, about the challenges they would face as a couple, and how they would work together to overcome them. Liam made it clear that he was committed to their relationship, and Emma finally felt the walls she had built around herself start to crumble. She was ready to open up completely, to trust him fully. But as the days passed, Emma started to feel the pull of her own ambitions again. She had always dreamed of opening her own art studio, of creating a space for artists like her to thrive. The dream had been on the back burner for so long, buried beneath the pressures of daily life and the constant struggle to make ends meet. But now, with Liam's support and the stability he brought into her life, she began to see the possibility of making that dream a reality. One evening, as they sat in their favorite cafe, Emma shared her thoughts with Liam. "I've been thinking a lot about my art," she began, her voice uncertain. "About the studio I've always wanted to open. I don't know if it's crazy, but I feel like it's time to start working on it. I want to create something that's mine, something that matters." Liam's eyes lit up with excitement. "Emma, that's amazing. I know how much it means to you. If anyone can do it, it's you. And I'll be here to support you, every step of the way." His words filled her with a sense of hope and determination. For the first time in a long time, she truly believed that she could make her dream come true. With Liam by her side, she felt unstoppable. Over the next few months, Emma poured her heart and soul into making her art studio a reality. She found a small space in the city, perfect for the kind of creative haven she had always imagined. Liam was there for every step, helping her with the logistics, offering his support, and cheering her on when things got tough. Slowly but surely, her dream was taking shape, and Emma realized that she had not only found love in Liam but had also rediscovered her own passion and purpose. As the opening day of her studio approached, Emma couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and nerves. She had come so far, and she knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She was no longer the girl who doubted her worth or feared being abandoned. With Liam, she had found the courage to believe in herself, to trust in love, and to pursue her dreams. And for the first time in her life, Emma knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be. As Emma's art studio opened its doors, the sense of achievement she felt was indescribable. Months of hard work, sleepless nights, and moments of doubt had finally led her to this moment. The grand opening was a success. People from all over the city came to admire her vision, the space she had created to foster creativity and community. She looked around. The studio, the walls adorned with vibrant paintings, sculptures, and sketches, each one a piece of her heart. It was a dream come true, and Emma couldn't have been prouder. But as she stood there, taking in the buzz of excitement around her, a part of her mind drifted back to the man who had stood by her every step of the way, Liam. He had been more than just a boyfriend, he had been her biggest supporter, the one who believed in her when she wasn't sure if she could believe in herself. He had cheered her on when she doubted her abilities, and now, as she looked around at the studio, she knew that it wasn't just her dream, it was their dream. The night before the grand opening, they had celebrated at a quiet dinner together, just the two of them. It had been a moment of reflection, where they shared their hopes for the future and talked about how far they had come. "I still can't believe this is happening," Emma had said, her eyes shining with excitement as she looked across the table at Liam. "It feels surreal." Liam smiled, his eyes full of warmth. "You made it happen, Emma. This is all you." She smiled back, feeling the love and admiration in his gaze. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said softly. "You've been there for me in ways no one else has." Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "And I always will be," he said with a quiet certainty. Emma felt her heart swell with emotion. She had always been so focused on surviving, on getting by, that she never truly allowed herself to dream. But now, with Liam by her side, she had not only found success in her career, but also a deep, unwavering love that she never expected. The opening day of the studio was a whirlwind of activity. Guests came and went, artists talked shop, and Emma found herself smiling, shaking hands, and thanking everyone for their support. But in the midst of it all, she couldn't help but look for Liam. He was there, of course, standing by her side, always ready with a reassuring word or a gentle touch. As the event drew to a close and the last of the guests left, Emma finally got a moment alone with Liam. She looked around the studio, taking in the space that had become a physical manifestation of her dreams. "I did it," she said softly, as if speaking to herself. Liam stepped behind her, his hands resting on her shoulders. "We did it," he corrected her, his voice low and filled with affection. "You've worked so hard for this, Emma. I'm proud of you." Emma turned to face him, her eyes searching his for something more. "You know, this isn't just about the studio for me," she said quietly. "It's about finally feeling like I'm where I'm meant to be. And that includes you." Liam smiled, a tender smile that made Emma's heart race. "I'm right where I'm meant to be too," he said, stepping closer. She felt a warmth spread through her chest as she looked up at him. He reached for her hand, gently intertwining his fingers with hers. "You've given me a lot to think about, Emma," he said, his voice soft. "I've been so focused on my work for so long that I almost forgot what really matters. And now, with you, I'm starting to see it all differently." Emma felt a surge of hope. This was it. This was the moment she had been waiting for. She had allowed herself to believe in this love, and now, with every word Liam spoke, she knew that they were on the same page. They were building something real, something worth fighting for. "So, what comes next?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's gaze softened as he looked down at her, his eyes filled with emotion. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "We're building something amazing, Emma. And I want to be here for every step of it." Emma smiled, her heart overflowing with love. "Together," she echoed, squeezing his hand. As they stood there, hand in hand, surrounded by the space they had created together, Emma realized that she was no longer just surviving. She was living. And with Liam by her side, she knew that the possibilities were endless. Their journey had just begun, and Emma was ready for whatever came next, knowing that they would face it all together. She wasn't alone anymore, and that was the greatest gift she could ever have hoped for. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam's connection only grew stronger. They continued to build their lives together, balancing their individual dreams and ambitions with the deep love and trust they shared. The art studio was flourishing, attracting more artists and visitors every day, and Emma found herself more fulfilled than she ever thought possible. She was finally living her dream, and it was even more beautiful than she could have imagined. With Liam by her side, she had not only created something meaningful in the art world but also found the kind of love she had always hoped for. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but it was real. And for Emma, that was all she had ever wanted. Liam, too, seemed to be growing alongside her. He wasn't just the successful CEO anymore, he was someone who had learned the importance of love, of family, and of having someone by your side who truly understood you. He made time for her in ways that meant the world, proving that he wasn't just about business. He was about them, about building a future together. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of their apartment, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Emma turned to Liam with a smile. "You know, I never thought I'd get here," she said softly, her voice full of emotion. "I spent so many years just trying to survive, just getting by. But now I feel like I'm really living." Liam looked at her, his eyes warm with affection. "You've always been living, Emma. You just didn't know it," he said gently, his hand reaching for hers. "And I'm so glad I'm here with you, seeing you realize everything you've ever dreamed of." Emma squeezed his hand, feeling the depth of his words. It was true. She had always been alive, but she had never truly allowed herself to dream until now. She had held herself back, afraid of being disappointed, of not being enough. But Liam had shown her what it meant to take risks, to trust, and to love without holding back. "I couldn't have done this without you, Liam," she whispered, her voice thick with gratitude. "You've been there for me in ways I never imagined. You've shown me that I'm worth more than just surviving." Liam leaned in, brushing a soft kiss across her forehead. "You've always been worth more than just surviving, Emma. You've always been worth everything." Emma closed her eyes, letting his words sink in, feeling a warmth spread through her heart. She had come so far from the girl who doubted herself, the girl who didn't believe she deserved love, the girl who was always afraid of falling short. Now, with Liam, she knew that she was enough, exactly as she was. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they sat in comfortable silence, their hands intertwined. Emma looked out at the city below, feeling a sense of peace she had never known. This was her life now. A life filled with love, passion, and a sense of purpose. It wasn't always easy, and it wasn't always perfect, but it was real. And that was enough. Over the next few months, they continued to build their life together, with Emma's art studio growing even more successful and Liam finding balance between his career and personal life. They traveled, explored new places, and experienced new adventures together, each one bringing them closer. But the most important thing was that they were no longer just surviving, they were living. And as they stood hand in hand, looking out at the future, Emma knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they would always have each other. The love they had was real, and it was more than enough to carry them through. It wasn't about grand gestures or big plans. It was about trust, respect, and knowing that no matter what, they would never let go of each other. And in that moment, Emma realized that she had found the one thing she had always wanted. Not just love, but a true partner, someone who saw her, supported her, and loved her for who she was. It was more than she had ever imagined, and it was exactly what she needed. As they looked ahead, Emma felt a sense of calm wash over her. She wasn't alone anymore, and that was all that mattered. She had found her place in the world, and Liam had found his. Together, they were unstoppable. And in the end, that was the greatest love story of all.